U.S. President Donald Trump says his administration is now finalizing a plan to change the asylum system as he focuses on immigration ahead of the key midterm elections. At a campaign rally in Missouri on Thursday, he told supporters that a caravan of migrants from Central America, they're tough people, not little angels, and he promised they would not be allowed into the U.S. Defense lawyer David Katz is with us now from New York. David is also a former assistant U.S. attorney for Los Angeles, appointed during the Reagan administration. David, good to see you.
Great to be with you.
Well, okay, I want you to listen to the president explaining why he believes there is this urgent need to change the current process for asylum seekers.
The biggest loophole drawing illegal aliens to our borders is the use of fraudulent or meritless asylum claims to gain entry into our great country. An alien simply crosses the border illegally, finds a Border Patrol agent, and using well-coached language by lawyers and others, they're given a little legal statement to read. And they read it. And now all of a sudden they're supposed to qualify. But that's not the reason they're here.
Yeah, that sounds like the stuff you hear on conservative talk radio. They utter a few magic words and asylum is granted. That doesn't seem to be even close to the reality of what happens most days.
What President Trump said is completely fanciful. I mean, the reality that these poor migrants who come here looking to make a living, to somehow find a job, the idea that they're coached by lawyers, if there's someone who's, accompanied this caravan, it's because it's a Fox reporter to report on all of this and to take pictures of it, and a few other reporters. The idea that they're coached by lawyers, that they have access to lawyers and they have a pre-printed thing that they read off. A lot of them say, I'm from Honduras, I'm scared to death down there. There's gangs that are overrunning the country. And that's legitimate. And international law says that they have a right to ask for asylum at the border of a country. They come through Mexico, they arrive at our border. We have no right under the international law not to allow them to make an asylum request. All over the world, people cross borders and make asylum requests. Some are granted, some are denied. There's a legal process. We have one in America.
Okay, and that process was specifically looking at the Immigration and Nationality Act, which states very clearly any alien who is physically present in the United States, irrespective of such alien status, may apply for asylum. But there are exceptions if that person has committed a crime, and then it's left to the Attorney General to decide what crimes would disqualify asylum seekers. And that decision is not subject to judicial review. So illegally entering the U.S., I guess that would become a disqualifying crime for asylum seekers. You can debate the morals about this, but it seems purely from a legal standpoint, the Trump administration, would you say they're on safe ground?
No, not at all. If someone was a deported alien, they'd be committing a crime to come back after a formal deportation. That's not the situation with these folks. These folks are coming from very poor, violent, gang-infested countries in Central America, and they have a right to ask for asylum. Some of them are facing political persecution. What inspired our asylum laws in the United States is our best intentions, the best side of the American people. And, the best side of the American people is a wonderful thing. And we were mortified that we didn't allow, let's say, the Jews during the Holocaust to have a ship be anchored here. We sent them back to Germany for persecution and worse. Then we don't want to be a country like other countries in the world that send people back, that send asylum seekers back to persecution. If that's bogus, that's determined by our courts. They do a very good job. We have wonderful, very efficient courts that look at these questions. Many asylum seekers are denied. They're decided by judges. But President Trump cannot decide through some border patrol that these people don't have a valid asylum claim. They have a right to bring it and to make it. And all these people from war-torn countries and persecution, they have a right to present their case. Now, more controversial things are people like, let's say, domestic violence. I think that's what your question's referring to, that the Attorney General can say, I don't think he should say, but he can say victims of domestic violence are not facing the kind of persecution that we're talking about. And that's what you're saying is not reviewable by a court, although there are certain ways to try to make that justiciable in the courts and raise it.
Okay, so after the president dropped this bombshell just days before the midterm elections, it seems he gave border agents free rein to open fire on immigrants. Listen to this.
They want to throw rocks at our military fights back. We're going to consider it, and I told them, consider it a rifle. When they throw rocks like they did at the Mexico military and police, I say, consider it a rifle.
Okay, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection's use of force handbook clearly states authorized officers, agents may use deadly force only when necessary. That is, when the officer agent has a reasonable belief that the subject of such force poses an imminent danger of serious physical injury or death to the officer or agent. The president may think there is no difference between a wound sustained from a rock and a wound sustained from a gunshot, but there is. And this would seem to put those agents in some kind of legal jeopardy, to say nothing about the morality of all of this.
The agents would be in severe legal jeopardy. This is a campaign stunt 4 days before the election. Everybody sees it for what it is. And if a Border Patrol agent shot at somebody because they were throwing a rock, they would be prosecuted and they would be convicted. I've tried jury cases, and I wouldn't want to be their defense attorney because all 12 jurors would convict them. You cannot shoot and use deadly force against someone throwing a rock. Now, you can set it up where the person's 3 feet away and the rock has already hit your head, and now they're throwing another rock. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is Trump feels weak facing the midterms, and we all know that bullies are weak people. And this is bullying. This is awful. And this is not going to go into, people watching your show should realize this is not going to go into effect in America. No Border Patrol agent in his right mind or her right mind is going to shoot somebody just for picking up a stone or throwing a stone.
It's, yeah, many would say it's un-American. David, good to see you. Thank you.
Great to see you. Good to be on the show.